The 10th season of Consider This is brought to you in part by Blooms in Omaha, featuring floral arrangements and gifts. And by From the Top, a national program showcasing the musical talents of young people. From the Top can be heard on KVNO Classical 90.7 each Saturday at 6 p.m.
Consider This, a program of issues and information behind today's news. Once again, from the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha, here is your host, Andrea McMaster.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this edition of Consider This. I'm Andrea McMaster. They make an incredible decision at one of the darkest moments in their life. The families of organ donors offer the gift of life to complete strangers. This year marks an important campaign to increase the number of registered organ, tissue, and eye donors in the state of Nebraska. The goal is to have 800,000 registered donors by next April. Currently, about 100,000 people are waiting for an organ transplant. Every 12 minutes, a new name is added to the national transplant waiting list. We're fortunate here in the state of Nebraska to have a very reputable transplant program. The Nebraska Medical Center is home to the most well-known organ transplant programs in the country, one of the most well-known organ transplants in the country. Patients travel from all over the nation to receive transplants at the medical center. Listen as a couple of the medical center's transplant surgeons talk about the program.
We're very fortunate to have our transplant program in Omaha, Nebraska, and at the Nebraska Medical Center as part of the University of Nebraska Medical Center. The resources here have been outstanding. We've been given every opportunity to be successful. The kidney transplant program began in the 1970s early on, the liver transplant program in the 1980s. We've now performed nearly 3,000 organ transplants, which makes us one of the largest and most successful programs in the world. We've transplanted over 500 children. The various surgical techniques that we developed, anti-rejection strategies, they're innumerable. And I think they're just really those small baby steps that we've taken over the years to really make transplantation such a successful endeavor that it is today.
Very often, especially the adults, feel so much better even the next day, and typically a very grateful family and grateful patients that really, and then seeing them down the line at a year or two or several years when they're able to stay off dialysis and in terms of children grow normally and go out and do the things that all the other kids do, it's really a great feeling. We try, always trying very hard to provide excellent care, both when patients are in the hospital and as an outpatient. There's a lot of support staff and a lot of strong follow-up, and really a lot of great people to work with, anywhere from the nurses down to the nurse practitioners down to the janitors.
We're also looking at ways that we can treat patients better by trying to understand the rejection process. So if an organ develops dysfunction, we're trying to determine what causes that so we can find better ways to treat it. We're also trying to find ways that we can decrease the morbidity of transplantation, especially intestinal transplantation, and for that we're looking into some testing that might be used on either stool or blood that could be replacing the biopsies that we currently do. One of the best things for me is to see the patients that come to us that are really, really sick, either a week or a day or even a month or two before transplantation, walk out of the hospital completely well, and really ready to get back to a normal life. And that to me is the most gratifying part of my job.
Our daughter Jane at 9 months was diagnosed with alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency, and our GI doctor referred us to Nebraska Medical Center, and we flew over here last year and had our evaluation, and she just had her surgery on Wednesday, her transplant, and it's been almost a week and she's doing fabulous. They helped us every step of the way. I mean, they never left us in the dark with anything. They always told us the risks, and they told us everything, and it was just, I've felt so comfortable with them. I've never had any problem with second guessing them or anything.
Before I was a mom, I always was very interested in taking care of the pediatric patients. It's very rewarding, and you do give them a whole new hope at life. I really admire the parents who dedicate their lives, who sacrifice everything to take care of their sick children. We get to know them very well, as many of them are here for months to a year or two at a time. and we feel that they become a part of our family. I think that's one of the unique aspects of our program, is that we develop these bonds with the patients and with their parents. Being a mother now, it does become somewhat more emotional at times. I still have to maintain my professional objectiveness, but I think that it allows me to understand a little bit more what the parents are going through. I've seen my partners who are all parents go through that, and I've learned on my own that it does add an extra element of being able to take care of these patients in a very compassionate way.
I think as the public becomes more aware of the need for donors and that this is a successful and safe procedure, that this will be an increase in the number of patients that get living donor transplants.
Well, we have two guests with us today that I want to introduce you to. Dave Eggers, who is a liver transplant recipient, and we're so glad to have you here, Dave. I want you to share a little bit about your story, what it was like for you listening to those surgeons talk about the need for increased donation especially. And Doug Brummers from the Donate Life Services office at the Nebraska Medical Center. We're glad that you could be here too, Doug.
Great, thank you for having me.
So Dave, I want you to start off just to give us really the personal view of what it's like to be going through this. When was it that you were listed for a transplant, that you found out that you were sick enough that you really needed a transplant to survive?
I found out that I was ill, ironically, after I'd had a complete flight physical. I was in the Air Force before this all happened. And when they told me that I had a liver disease that only could be fixed or taken care of by a transplant, it took me totally by surprise.
What were your emotions like at that time?
Well, they pretty much ran the grommet. Disbelief, anger. I was an aviator, an instructor pilot in the Air Force, so that was going to put my career in jeopardy for sure. And I'm not a very good dependent person. And when the time came for transplant, I was dependent on everyone. So the gravity of the issue was that I wasn't sick enough at that point to be listed on the transplant list. That was approximately 10 years before I transplanted. So when he told me, I didn't know anything about transplants. I knew, of course, that we did them in our country, but I didn't know the numbers or any of that, the specifics of it. And when he told me that it was going to take 10 years to finally qualify, that is, get sick enough to get on the transplant list, I was stunned. We couldn't believe it. And we were hopeful that maybe along the way there'd be some research that would help me, but turned out just as they thought, that my liver lasted about 9.5 years. I was listed in 1997 and then finally waited 10 months to get sicker yet to finally get the transplant. So there's a number of hoops you have to go through to finally get the transplant, which of course depends on someone making the decision out there to donate for me.
Mm-hmm. Talk about how sick you were before that transplant. It was...
Yeah, it's devastating. The liver is a very strong organ, pretty much manages your whole body. And as it fails, everything else fails with it. And by the time we transplanted, I was about 110 pounds. I had lost about half my body weight. And over time, your liver regenerates itself, and then finally, though, it just quits. And that was just about the time I needed the transplant, is when the failure started and really started downhill, and we were concerned.
I'm sure you were excited when you heard that there was finally an organ available for you, but at the same time, you had to have been scared to go into the surgery room.
There's the emotions again. You're emotional when the time comes because, first of all, for me to have a transplant, someone else had to pass away. So you feel sorry for the family and say a prayer for them, but now it was my chance to live as a result of that gift. And also, it is a very serious surgery, so you're kind of looking at it as your last chance to have another chance at living. So there were a lot of emotion right in there, and of course for a variety of reasons. And to be able to continue living is a huge thing, obviously.
Well, I want to hear a little bit more from you in a little bit for you just talking about, you know, that donor family that I know you think about quite often.
Absolutely.
But Doug, I want you to share, and just this is from the United Network of Organ Sharing. Just as 2:46 this afternoon, the number of those people that are on the waiting list for a transplant, 96,370. So when you hear that number, what do you say to people about why they should become an organ or a tissue or an eye donor?
I mean, that is just a growing number that's just growing so rapidly. I think, as you mentioned, every 12 minutes another name is added to the waiting list. And so just as quickly as patients like Dave are receiving an organ transplant, there are more people on the list to replace them. And so, you know, we just have to get the message out about the great need for organ donations, get that message out there. We tell people it's important to talk to your family, let them know what your wishes are so that they know that you wanted to be an organ donor. And we just have to spread that message out there as much as we possibly can. We just see for grieving families, this is really a way that you can help someone else out, and part of your loved one can live on in someone else.
So there's 474 of those of the 96,000 that are here in our state alone. So how do people make that request known that they would like to donate their organs?
Well, it's very important to talk to your family so they know what your wishes are. But about 3 years ago, the Nebraska legislature passed a new law called first person legislation. And when you reach the age of majority, if you make that indication on your driver's license or you sign up on the donor registry at anydonation.org, your wishes will be carried out at the time of your death. But it's still important that your family know what your wishes are. If you would like further information, you can contact our office at 559-9566, and we would be happy to send any information to anyone that requests information about how to become an organ donor.
Okay. Talk a little bit why it's so important to tell your family. Why is that? Is that because after you pass away, your family has the final say? Or is it because your family, if your family doesn't know, they don't know to tell the hospital workers? I mean, why is it that it's so important, critical to tell your family?
You know, I think, you know, when you do have a loss in your family, there's a lot of grief, there's a lot of emotions that are going through people's minds. And a lot of times organ donation isn't one of those things that you're thinking about at that particular time. And so being faced with difficult decisions at a time that you've lost a loved one, and there's so many other things to think about as far as funeral arrangements and contacting people, just knowing that you've had that conversation, that this is what the person would have wanted, that they wanted to be an organ donor, that really takes a lot of the pressure off their loved ones to have to make that kind of decision. It's something that they already know this is something that this person really wanted to do, and that they were a very giving person, that they would want to help someone else out. I think it's very helpful that families know that that's what a person's wishes were, and that they've had that discussion.
It's really amazing when you hear too that deceased donors can enhance or save the lives of up to 50 people. I mean, that's a startling number to me. That's one person saving or helping 50 people. So there's a reason enough to do it. And I think a lot of people too, you hear some of the reasons why people say, well, I might not choose to donate because I wouldn't have the funeral maybe that I wanted, or what's some of the other reasons you probably hear more than I do, but religious reasons. And how do you respond to some of that?
You know, we have an 800 information line where people contact us about different questions. And we had someone contact us that they had signed up to be an organ donor on their driver's license, and when they had lost their job, they no longer had insurance. So their fear was that they would be in an accident, they would get to the hospital, and when the hospital would find out that they didn't have insurance, they were afraid that because they had signed their donor card, that they were going to let the person die so that they could have their organs. And while it sounds funny, this is truly, you know, what people are thinking about, is that hospital staff physicians won't do everything in their power to save people's lives. So we just have to dispel these misconceptions and tell everyone that the physicians, the doctors, the hospitals, they will do everything in their power to save a person's life. It's only after the person has died that organ donation is offered. There is no cost to a donor's family to be an organ donor. You can still have an open casket funeral. Your funeral arrangements can still be made as planned. Organ donation is done in a very sensitive and caring fashion. And just being an organ donor, you can save and enhance the lives of many people, as you mentioned, but it doesn't impact funeral arrangements or other things that you do. And it's a way of a living person living on. I just talked to a husband a couple of weeks ago that had just lost his wife, and they had a family member that was waiting for a lung transplant, and unfortunately their family member didn't get that call for a lung transplant in time, and they died waiting. And because of that, they had a discussion that if anything happened to either one of us, we want to donate to help make sure that this doesn't happen to another family. And so that when his wife died tragically in an accident, it comforted him and his family to know that they were able to help someone else out in their tragic time, but to make sure that someone could benefit and live a healthy life again.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that gives you goosebumps when you're hearing that. I'm sure it does really everybody listening to that. And so for a lot of families, this could help in the grieving process, knowing that their loved one is living on in another person, even if it's a complete stranger that they never meet.
Absolutely. We have recipients that receive organ transplants that will write letters to their donor families all the time, and they'll just let them know that I'm able to get back to a normal lifestyle again. I was able to walk my daughter down the aisle. I was able to see my grandkids. A lot of things that I wouldn't have been able to do without this life-saving transplant. And so
like
these things are very important, and it really does help families through a grieving process to know that they've made a difference.
So Dave, share a little bit about that. Have you been able to contact your
Yes.
donor?
Well, only from them to me.
Okay.
At least I did hear back from them. That's what I mean. It took them about 6 years to. I've been out now post-op 8 years, and it took them 6 years to write to me. Don't know the reason why, but it's just difficult to accept the fact. In this case, it's his daughter that wrote to me, and it took a while for them to understand and to accept the fact that their father had passed, or husband had passed away. And she had mentioned not only that she was happy that I had received an organ, but there were others who were saved as well.
Mm-hmm.
So just what you said, about this, the saving of people. I have written to them every single year, and just to bring them up to date on what I've been doing, that I'm doing well, and really thankful. And finally I did that letter that came in the mail that day. That was another emotional time, because you can physically attach to who your donor was at that point. So I know his name is Ron. I know who I can say a prayer for individually now, and that's really great.
And I know that in a way you celebrate every anniversary post-transplant for you too, and you've been able to look back and say, I was able to be there at my daughter's wedding or see my children graduate.
Both of those, and now we have a 2-year-old grandson. We were there for that event also, but those are all major events that are great to be at. But it's the day-to-day living that I'm so thankful for. I say a prayer for Ron every day. I'm thankful that he or his family made that decision to donate. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you folks had I not been able to receive this great gift. And then to have the technology to be able to do something with the gift is just awesome.
And really this prompted your experience as well to seek a job at the Nebraska Medical Center, and you are helping transplant recipients or those who are waiting for a transplant right now that are...
Perfect job for a recipient, I'd say. This is all part of the giving back, in my humble opinion. I was able to enjoy a very good Air Force career, and I enjoyed every minute of that. Nothing like flying airplanes, but that all came to an end when the transplant happened. So I had to find a place where I felt that I could contribute in the organ donation part. And just as I was thinking about it, the Lead Transplant Center opened, and the staff there thought it'd be great to have someone who had been through a transplant, and my family. They're important too, to be able to relate to the patients what it's like to get through transplant. And I've had very, very good success so far, and it's great for the patients. We have so many great professionals down there that can help them with the professional side of it, but to be able to speak to a patient that you can do it, that it is, it's no walk in the park for sure, but they do work, and you can have a great life after transplant.
And just knowing, especially with some of the pediatric families that travel from out of state, they might spend quite a long time in the state or in the city of Omaha waiting for their transplant or even post-transplant for their care. And so, I mean, I know even some families who have received or gotten an apartment, moved into an apartment here because they knew they were going to be here so long and waiting for that transplant. So it really becomes a second home to a lot of them. So making it like a second home is important.
Right, and some eventually move to Omaha to just because this is where their care is, and they don't feel comfortable going back to where they were. But all of those things are tremendous trauma for the family, and part of my job is to assist them any way they can. In addition to speaking about transplant as a patient, but we try to help them make their stay with us as comfortable and as non-threatening as we can make it for them. And the greatest part of it is to see them come in so ill, and then at our transplant reunion every summer after they transplant, to see them doing well and happy and enjoying life. There's just nothing any better than that.
Well, Doug, I want you to share a little bit about, too, that it doesn't have to be for a deceased donor. There is such a thing as living donation, and I think people are more familiar with that as far as kidney goes, but there can also be living liver donations as well, where they take a piece of someone else's liver and give that to the recipient.
That's right. I know at our hospital, half of the kidney transplants that are performed at the Nebraska Medical Center are live donor transplants, and that's where a healthy individual can donate one of their kidneys to a family member or friend, or even an anonymous person they just want to share the gift with. As you mentioned, living donation of the liver is possible too, where a portion of the liver is removed from a healthy individual that can be transplanted into a patient. A lot of times that's done from an adult to a child, and the thing is that part of the liver that's transplanted into that patient will continue to grow with them, and just like an organ from a deceased donor. And there are a few situations around the country where live donation can take place with the lung, small bowel, or part of the pancreas, to where the most common is the liver and the kidney, but it is done with a few other organs as well.
And oftentimes that seems to be a family member, but it doesn't always have to be.
Right.
And is that usually that when those arrangements made, that they come to the hospital with the person that they plan on having as their donor?
Not always. I know we have had cases where a family friend or a church member or a school teacher will know someone that has kidney failure and will want to donate a kidney to that particular individual. But we've also had a number of people that have contacted the hospital and said, we just want to donate a kidney to help anyone else that might need one. And so it's a possibility to look at these individuals, evaluate the kidney function, and determine whether or not there is a suitability to be able to donate one of their kidneys to someone that's on the waiting list.
You had a very good story. I've got lots of them, but
I'm sure you do. Yeah.
We had a family arrive here from Utah and had lots of children in their family. Dad needed a liver transplant badly. They typed all and sized, he needed a liver transplant, and all 7 of the children matched. And so they were kind of worrying about how they were going to pick the right one, and they turned out picking the one who was not married and the youngest. So that's a rare case there. That was great, and he's doing great, and the son that contributed to him is doing fine too. So.
Well, that's what I was going to say to you. What is follow-up care like after receiving a transplant? I mean, as far as being on medications the rest of your life, and
well, there is some little inconvenience with it, but aside from the medication and a couple of other little things that I've had to deal with, it's really no different than anyone waking up in the morning and taking a multivitamin, really. But as far as the patients I work with every day, they have this idea that once they transplant, everything will be fine. And so part of my duty then is to have them be patient. it's hard. They think that they're going to transplant and everything will just be miraculously changed around. But it is a huge change. You have to, there's a lot of things you do at first to get used to the medications and doing them correctly. But over time, if I can get them to get to a point where they have one good day of very good activity, lots of energy, then we get them over the hump. But I myself, in my case, really have not really, I turned around very quickly, went to work in 3 or 4 months, and really have never been to the hospital since for the liver thing. So, you know, I've just been very, very fortunate with a tremendous transplant that's worked great.
Okay, Doug, I want you to share again, if as far as becoming an organ donor, is it the next time you're going to renew your driver's license? Is a good time to make that arrangement? But there's other options as well.
Absolutely. That's a great time to do it when you're renewing your driver's license or your first time obtaining a driver's license. But you can go on the donor registry as well, anydonation.org, and register to be an organ donor. You can certainly contact our office if you'd like more information on becoming a donor, to receive a donor card. And also talking to your family is very important. I know Saturday, May 19th, we're promoting organ donor awareness at our annual event called Life-a-thon. It's out at Wearspan Lake, and I would invite anyone that's interested to contact us at 559-9566. We would be happy to send you informational brochure about the event. We'd love to see you out there. It's a great time to remember donor families, so if you've had someone that was a donor in your family, we would love to have you out there to remember and think of your loved one, and there will be a lot of recipients out there as well. The helicopter will be out there, face painters, clowns, animals. It's just a great family fun event. The Pancake Man is out there that everyone really likes, and so we just tell everyone, please come out, you'll have a great time.
Good chance to meet some recipients as well. And I think when you meet a recipient, you say, why am I not an organ donor?
Right.
I appreciate so much both of you being here and sharing with us. I'm going to mention that website again. It's anydonation.org, and you can find out more information about organ donation on there and becoming and signing up for the Nebraska Donor Registry. Also, the number, the 800 number, 800-718-LIFE. And then finally, if you're interested in that Life-a-thon on Saturday, May 18th or 19th, to register, you can call Donate Life Services at 402-559-9566. That's 559-9566. And we thank you very much for joining us for this edition of Consider This.
Consider This is an issues and information program produced by UNO Television. More information and program archives can be found at unotv.unomaha.edu. If you'd like to share your comments about this show, call UNO TV at 402-554-2516 during regular business hours.
The 10th season of Consider This is brought to you in part by Blooms in Omaha, featuring floral arrangements and gifts. And by From the Top, a national program showcasing the musical talents of young people. From the Top can be heard on KVNO Classical 90.7 each Saturday at 6 p.m.